Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 President's Cup DFS Tactics show. I imagine this is going to be a bit of a longer show, especially if chat is active, which I'm hoping you are, to make a bunch of lineups, how we're thinking about who's going to play all 5 sessions, what partners we think players are going to be paired up with, all of that good stuff. So let's not waste any time. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there. It's going to make you a much better gambler and a much smarter DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description of the video, there are links to my social media, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Discord server, all of that. No research to Twitter and Instagram this week since it's a very unique format. Also not going to do a betting card that I normally do. I am solely focused on DFS this week. Another reason why this show is going to be a bit longer than probably usual. But if you want to see normally the research that I do, the betting cards that I put out, give me a follow at the links in the description. And also I am live every morning on Twitch. This is where I've been doing a lot of my research. You have, basically inundated access to ask any questions that you might have. And it doesn't have to be around golf. I did a DFS baseball team tonight, doing a little bit of research, or recap, I should say, not research, but recap of last week's performance at the Fortinet, all of that good stuff. So I really hope you consider coming by on Twitch, hanging out in the mornings, and then just chat, have some fun with that. And then lastly, we're live, chat is open. Again, I want to hear from you all. Who do you think is going to be paired together? Who are you thinking about using as captains? Is there anybody that you're not going to be using this week? I think I have probably 4 or 5 on that list for sure, but definitely want to hear from you all. I'm also here for any lineup questions if you want to try to build around a player or two, here for all that. So going to be a good show, going to be a fun show. Hopefully you all will jump in chat and enjoy if you're not watching live. So let's figure out our strategies and tactics for the 2022 President's Cup. And with such a unique tournament, we're going to have a unique DFS Tactics show, which means we're going to start in Excel and we're going to stay in Microsoft Excel the entire time. But I have built 2 different mixed condition models. You see here, this is the for-some rankings, alternate shot, and then I have my best ball or 4-ball rankings here. And I'll go through each one, don't worry. But I think before we start going into anything regarding rankings and stuff like that, this is where I explain to you how a DFS contest works in Ryder Cup and President's Cup. You will choose one captain, and that captain is 1.5 times his price value. So let's just make math easy. Xander Schauffele here costs $10,000. Well, half of $10,000 is $5,000. You add that to his original price, he is going to be $15,000 if you set him as your captain. But who you designate as your captain will earn 1.5 times the points that they normally would. So Xander Schauffele, if you think he's going to get 10 points, however that works in cup format, if he would get 10, he'll now get 15 since he's your captain. The other 5 are as usual. Regular price, regular amount of points. But in cup-style contests, you choose a captain. They are 1.5 times the price, but you get 1.5 times the points. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, feel free to reach out in chat or throw a question in the comments. I'll be more than happy to try to explain perhaps a little better, or especially on Twitch, I will be able to show you, there live as we go through it. But I want to make sure I explain the format of the scoring contest, at least per DraftKings, how it works. With that in mind, let's start with our alternate shot or foursome rankings. And as I mentioned, I made two different mixed condition models because alternate shot is a different game, a different format than best ball. In alternate shot, you are pure, what it sounds like, alternating shots. So if your partner hits the tee shot, you will hit the second shot. And then your partner hits the third, you would hit the fourth. Proceed until you are in the hole. It is a very, very challenging format. There are similarities between the two mixed condition models, and you see that highlighted in this light gold, essentially, for both rankings. Okay, so those are the metrics that are shared, the same metric, the same filter, the same percentage in both mixed condition models. So what I have here is 60% shared between the two mixed condition models, and then 40% spread out among different metrics that I think will play better or more apt in whatever format. So let's go through the four sums in the alternate shot. There is no doubt in my mind, we saw it in the research on Sunday, saw it in the data dive last night. Putting is the be-all end-all here at Quail Hollow, and it's the be-all end-all in cup formats. A good putter can erase a lot of mistakes or will give you such a premium against your opponents. So, I mean, Mr. Match Play himself, Kevin Kisner, you see, he is number one in putting. That's why he's generally really good at match play. He just puts the daylights out. Now, we've got 25%, a full 1/4 of our data model in putting. It's just extremely important. Last 36 rounds on Fast Bermuda, Quail Hollow has always had fast Bermuda greens, even when the PGA Championship was there. It might have had a round of lightning, I can't remember, but if they have lightning Bermuda speeds, there would be no way for me to know that, especially since the President's Cup did not list a stimp. If they have lightning, fast is going to be at least comparable. Whereas if I looked at lightning and it wasn't lightning, that could throw in some potential errors or miscalculations. So I just kept it at fast. To get enough rounds, I had to go back to January 1st. So that's what this is. We saw all week how 200 plus proximities are going to be extremely important. So I've got 15% in 200 plus proximities. This course is long and it's difficult, all that stuff. So last 24 rounds, going back from June 1st to essentially this week. The next 10% that is shared across both is off the tee, long course. Now, fairways are going to be difficult to hit, but if you find them, you're in that much more of a better position. And the longer hitters are going to obviously be better here than shorter hitters. And then 10% in strokes gained approach. So there's the 60% that is shared between the two mixed condition models. So now for the four sums, I put 15% in both sand saves and scrambling, 5% each in the short wedge proximities. These two might seem very odd, so I'll come to those last. Sand saves, with it being alternate shot, you have no control over where you're hitting your next shot. It's all up to your partner. So on a par 3, your partner finds the bunker, you're going to have to play out of the sand. Your partner hits a wayward approach shot or misses the green, you're going to play out of the sand. Hopefully not in the water. But so you want to see who plays well or who does well out of sand and who does well when scrambling. Now, scrambling is a little bit different in the sense that putting can help your scrambling percentage, scrambling ability a lot. So the putting aspect won't be an accurate reflection into this, but it's still good to get an idea of who can scramble well, who can get their sand saves in alternate shot. So I put 15% in both of those. Hopefully that makes sense on why, or at least the reasoning why I believe they're going to be very important in an alternate shot format. Now let's talk about the two short proximities, and the reason is the same for both. And I put both proximities because I have no idea how players are going to, what shot they're going to prefer. But let's take Colin Morikawa, let's take Christian Bezuidenhout, Tom Kim, these guys that just don't hit the ball very far. On par fives, a lot of times, like Bezuidenhout will lay up and play to his strength of wedges, although it doesn't show his wedges being very good in the past 3 months. He's generally a pretty good wedge player. Somebody like Colin Morikawa, very, very good from 75 to 100. He's okay from 100 to 125. Spieth sometimes doesn't go for the green and two. He plays to his wedge acumen. These players who are in alternate shot will have to see who plays these proximities well if they are paired with a Christian Bezuidenhout, if they are paired with a Colin Morikawa or a Jordan Spieth if he decides to lay up. So there's the reasoning or the thinking behind having these two proximities. And again, some players might prefer 75 to 100. Some players might prefer 100 to 125. The thinking is the same. This is to see who can play with their partner if their partner isn't going for the green and two on the par fives, or on a long, par four if their partner gets very wayward. That's part of scrambling as well. But maybe they have to hit a 75 to 100 yard approach shot. So definitely wanted to see that. So there's my mixed condition model for alternate shot, and with no prior course performance, essentially not in a team format, and with we have a little bit of projected ownership, but it's Tuesday night, lineups aren't due until Thursday morning. These percentages are going to change. I'm not even going to start filling out my contest lineups until tomorrow when I get some more data around these. But this is where those projected ownerships sit on Tuesday evening. So again, reach out to me on social media, on Twitch tomorrow, comments of this video. If you're wanting an update on a specific player or two, I really don't mind just throwing that at you. If you ask for everybody, might have a little bit of an issue there. But if you're trying to decide between a couple of players and your tiebreaker is percent owned, throw it in the comments or reach out on social media. We'd be more than happy to help you. With that all said, my top, we'll say 6. No, what's 25? I want to do more than 5. I guess we'll do 10. So my top 40%. My top 10 players in alternate shot: Sungjae, Cam Davis, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Tom Kim, Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, Billy Horschel, Xander, and Cameron Young. A lot of this makes sense. Sungjae especially, he went 2-0 in alternate shot in 2019. Cam Davis is a rookie, but seems like he would be really good in alternate shot. He hits the ball pretty far, finds enough fairways. His irons are good. If he's paired with a partner that has to lay up, he's very good he's the best in this range. Not the best from here. So he would, communicate to his partner he wants to lay further back. He's okay in the sand saves. decent enough at scrambling, and he's a good putter. So he seems like he would fit very, very well. I'm sorry, I have an itch. Very, very well in an alternate shot format. Patrick Cantlay, Xander, third and ninth. No explanation needed. But for those who might just now be getting into golf, Cantlay and Schauffele is probably the best American team put out there in a long while. They're both California guys. They both play similar style games. Their compatibility is extremely high, and that's why they are such a formidable team in these international and these team events. Zurich Classic even, they just won this past season. So very, very good team there, Xander and Cantlay, so that makes a whole lot of sense. Max Homa, he's just a world beater right now, coming off the win at the Fortinet, Wells Fargo last season. He's just playing very, very, very well. Although his irons haven't been fantastic. They've been good enough to win, but he hasn't been fantastic with them. He's been putting very, very well. His long irons are dialed in. He's just playing really well. Tom Kim, a little bit speculative, especially since he has not played in a President's Cup. But you see the putting. Now again, remember what we saw last night. All of this is from the one tournament where he won, the Wyndham, where he gained 12 and a half. He's probably not the second best putter on Bermuda. So make sure you factor that in. He probably needs to drop a little bit. But everything else is reasonable, 200 plus proximities. The best in irons in the past 3.5 months. I don't think that's a surprise. He's very good with his wedges. So he seems like he would be a decent alternate shot or foursome player, with the exception of his sand saves. So that would give me a little bit of pause in terms of alternate shot. This plus the putting. And again, me personally, I would drop him a little bit in the rankings, but I'm just going by purely Fantasy National, since I don't have my formula for the President's Cup, the prior course performance. I thought that percent owned would be too variable, since this is a team format, very few players, all that stuff. So I don't think Tom Kim is fifth in foursomes, but I think he's still going to be okay. JT, Tony Finau, has been a world beater. Look at his run in the second half of the season last year, or second half of the season of last season, 3.5 or so months ago. Billy Horschel, Xander. So there's my top 10 in terms of alternate shot. And it's wise to start thinking about who might be paired with who. And the reason being, Cantlay and Schauffele, they are partnered together. They are essentially $200 apart. So there's really not a whole lot of difference between the two, but all things being equal, you would probably want to take Xander, since he is cheaper. It gives you $200 more to use somewhere else. Again, all things being equal. Perhaps the ownership, you prefer Cantlay, the rankings, all that stuff. But somebody like Max Homa, his Zurich Classic partner has been Taylor Gooch. Taylor Gooch joining Live, not eligible. Who's Max Homa going to play with? Who's Tony Finau going to play with? Because last President's Cup he played with Bryson. Cam Young, the rookie, who does he play with? All of that good stuff. It's important to think about, who do you think these guys are going to be partnered up with? Because in a DFS contest, you're wanting to get the guys that are going to play 4 and 5 sessions. So in here, there are a couple of players that I want to highlight for different reasons. First, let's talk the international team. Let's talk about Hideki. And I may have mentioned this Sunday or Monday, but it is a non-zero factor. He is the only Japanese player. There is a language barrier with him, with everybody else. he speaks a little bit of English, but not a lot. The Koreans, K.H. Lee, Sung Jae, Siwoo, Tom Kim. Some of them speak decent English, some of them don't. There's a language barrier here. They also don't speak Japanese with Hideki. So these four are kind of in an island with themselves as far as language barrier. And it's important to think about those types of things moving forward as well. But to highlight Hideki, Hideki has never played foursomes well. Some of that could be the language barrier, but his proximity to 200 plus isn't great. He's not a very good scrambler. He has to be, to use a football term, he has to be on schedule. He needs to hit enough fairways. He needs to, be dialed in with his irons, and he hasn't been lately. Like, he's not this good of a putter either on fast Bermuda. He's had a couple of good tournaments, but he's not this good putting. So you see, once you drop that fourth, make it say 10th or something, just to throw out a number, with 25% in the data model, he's going to fall even more. So with Hideki being 15th, I am out on Hideki as far as alternate shot. And if you're out on somebody on an entire format, it's very hard to justify taking them in a DFS contest where all 5 sessions are used for points. Let's see, other players here, like Mito, he does not feel like a very good alternate shot player. His sand play is the worst of the 24 in the field. He is not a very good putter on Bermuda. His wedges, at least close proximity wedges, are really, really bad. So, I'm wary or going to shy away from Mito. Now, Jordan Spieth is the exception here. He is 5-0. He's never even drawn a match. He has always won his alternate shot matches at the President's Cup. Why is he down here? Well, again, it's just purely by the numbers. He has not putt Bermuda very well, in the calendar year of 2022. I think it's safe to say he's a better putter than that. His proximity hasn't been good. He's just generally not been a good around the green player, and that's what he's most known for. So all things reverting back to, we'll say, usual Jordan Spieth numbers, he would rise. And then the wedge proximities he's been very good at lately. So Jordan Spieth should not be 24th in alternate shot rankings. Again, this is just purely by Fantasy National, and this is why I have made it a conscious effort to add ownership, add prior course performance in a regular PGA Tour event. Again, with this being so unique, I'm just showing you my Fantasy National numbers. So with that, I think that might do it for alternate shot for the moment. Like the Zadenhout seems like he'd be an alternate shot guy just because of his wedges, and he's a very good putter. Sam Burns is very interesting. He putts Bermuda very, very well. He's pretty darn good with his wedges. Off the tee, he can get wayward. He has the distance, he can get wayward. That's an issue. His scrambling and sand saves are mediocre. So Burns is interesting. K.H. Lee is interesting in terms of an alternate shot format. Pretty decent with wedges if he's partnered with somebody who doesn't hit it a long way. He's best in sand saves. His putting is good enough. K.H. Lee is interesting in terms of an alternate shot format. Another player, kind of like Hideki, in terms of very, very, very wary in terms of alternate shot, is Scotty Scheffler. I would be very gun shy to use Scotty Scheffler in an alternate shot format if I'm Davis Love. When he played so well with Bryson at the Ryder Cup, neither of them played alternate shot. They went 1-0-1 in for ball. And Scotty Scheffler, believe it or not, was the conservative of those two. You think Scotty Scheffler, you're thinking long hitter, he can be aggressive. He was the conservative player of those two because of Bryson. He can play the aggressive or the conservative player. That's why he is much, much better at 4 ball than he is at 4 sums. I mean, you see the sand saves, not good. Scrambling, not good. He's very good off the tee, very good with the irons, with his approach. So he plays his game around this. If he has no control over being in the sand, having to scramble, he's going to struggle in an alternate shot format. So I would not want any part of Scotty Scheffler in an alternate shot format. Corey Conners is a little surprising to see down here. He has a lot of similar numbers to Scotty Scheffler. He's getting hurt by the fact that he's not a good putter on Bermuda, but proximity is roughly the same. Sand saves, the same basically. He's very good off the tee, very good in approach. So kind of a similar style player. I would have not thought that by Corey Conners, but numbers are there. So there's a look at the alternate shot or 4 sums rankings that I have, again, purely by the numbers. Let's move on to 4 ball or best ball. Best ball is you and your partner are playing your own ball. If you birdie and your partner pars, the team gets a birdie. So hopefully that makes sense. And I'm going to have to clean these glasses. Anyway, so in 4 ball, you see the same 60% that is shared between both mixed condition models. Now, here are the percentages and metrics that are different from alternate shot. I've got 15% in all par 4s. The reason why the par 4s don't apply to the alternate shot, even though they're the same holes, they're played vastly different from person to person. Vastly different. So, like Tony Finau, Scotty Scheffler, they're going to play a par 4 quite different than somebody like Christian Bezuidenhout would. Bezuidenhout's going to, on the drivable par 4, Bezuidenhout's going to lay up. He's going to lay up and play to his strength of wedges. Tony Finau's going to go for it. Scotty Scheffler's going to go for it. P, thanks for jumping in chat. Glad to see you made it. You survived the Live Fiesta. Hopefully you had a good time. I saw a couple of the tweets that you put out. Sounds like it was a fun time, similar to a PGA Tour event. So if you want to share with everybody else in chat, feel free to. But thanks for jumping in like you normally do. Glad to see you. How do you, now that you went, actually, I would be curious to hear, would you go back? Is it worth the price? All of that good stuff. I'd be curious to hear that aspect of it. But so we got 15% in strokes gained par 4 for the reasons I mentioned. Guys are just going to play them different than others. That's why they are in 4 ball, playing your own ball. 10% in greens gained when it's difficult to par. Again, you're playing your own ball, so you can control how you try to hit the green, as opposed to having to rely on a partner that may miss the green or puts you in a position that you're uncomfortable with trying to hit the green. 10% in the par 5s, 550 to 600, and 5% in the par 4s, 450 to 500. And quite honestly, it's just that I started running out of percent. Because par 4s are extremely important. These par 5s, you could argue to put 15% in. I think greens are going to be an important factor for 4 ball, so I got that at 10%. Again, it's more so that I just started running out of percent, and I wanted to keep the metrics constant or consistent, if you will, across both mixed condition models, so I didn't change any of the metrics the percentages, the filters, or the timeline or time frame. I just wanted that to be completely consistent. So, all right, for 4-ball, best ball, my rankings are Sungjae, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Tony Finau, Scotty Scheffler, Tom Kim, Max Homa, Cam Davis, Cameron Young, and Justin Thomas. So you can see what I was talking about with Scotty Scheffler. He was pretty low in terms of alternate shot, sitting at 20th in my rankings. Here in best ball, he's 5th. Just that format suits him a whole lot better. Sungjae is actually my number 1 player, both alternate shot and best ball. Cantlay, 2nd and 3rd. He's solid all the way around. Cam Davis is up there, 2nd and 8th. Tom Kim, again, he's played extremely well. He can play both alternate shot and 4-ball. I think he's going to be better in alternate shot, to be honest with you, because he just doesn't have the length of some of the other players. So you pair him up, and this is just speculation or whatnot, just throwing a name out, but if you pair him up with, say, a Cameron Davis who has length, that's going to bring in the very good aspects of Tom Kim, where he can focus on his irons, his 200-plus approaches, his putting, things like that. So I think alternate shot is going to be the format for Tom Kim. I think Sungjae is going to play all 5 sessions. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. I would put him in all 5 if I were Trevor Immelman. I mentioned Cam Davis, Max Homa, very interesting. He's obviously played very well by himself. He seems like he would be a good partner to have as well. Finau, very good at both. But you'll see the players that are drastically different, say like Scotty Scheffler, K.H. Lee. He's near the bottom in best ball or 4-ball. He's actually middling in terms of my rankings in terms of alternate shot. And again, a lot of that's being the sand saves, the scrambling. He's a decent enough putter. So that format seems like it fits K.H. Lee better. Things like that. So with that, I think that's going to be a rough look at my rankings for the President's Cup in terms of, thinking about who plays 4-ball better, who plays alternate shot better, all that kind of stuff. So don't mind me as I move keyboard around. If you see fingers typing, that's that. But now let's start building some lineups. This is a reminder, at least by DraftKings, your captain is 1.5 times his price. So again, to make math easy, let's do Xander Schauffele. He's normally $10,000, but with the captaincy, he is now $15,000, but he also earns 1.5 times the points. There's his projected ownership. As of right now, I do not have the ability to separate out how often is he picked for being a captain versus being a regular golfer. I just have per Fantasy National the total. So that's all we have to work on tonight. But we can still build lineups with pricing, ownership, all of that good stuff. Over here are the specifically President's Cup records. I did not bring Ryder Cup records over for the Americans. We can certainly look at them if we're maybe in a tiebreaker or you all want to see some lineups of different players around, all that kind of stuff. But this is specifically President's Cup records. So you see Xander and Cantlay, they went 0-2 in best ball, but they went 2-0 in alternate shot. Xander won his singles match in 2019. Not that I'm advocating to use him, but I'll just show you, like Adam Scott. He's played so many times. He's 4-9-4 in best ball, 7-9-2 in alternate shot. He's 5-4 in singles. So this will be his 10th President's Cup. And the way this format reads is 4 being wins. Actually, let me do this one because it won't be confusing. 7, that's 7 wins. 9, that's 9 losses. 2, that's 2 halves. So Adam Scott has won 7 matches, lost 9 matches, tied 2 matches in his career in the President's Cup and alternate shot. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, again, feel free to jump in chat, put it in the comments, join me on Twitch. I will be more than happy to help. All right, let's take a look at some of these chalky lineups. When you're thinking about a captain, you're trying to make sure you get a guy that is going to play all 5 days and is going to get a lot of points. We know Sung Jae is going to play all 5 days, or all 5 sessions. I say 5 days, all 5 sessions. But, you know, the Americans are so heavily favored. Do you want to take that chance on Sung Jae that, you know, he makes 1.5, 2 points because he's just outmatched? That's something you have to think about. A lot of your fellow contestants are going something to the effect of Tony Finau as their captain, 45%. I apologize. Let me see if I can't freeze the panes that I want to freeze. So you see Tony Finau, and these projected owns are the same for both alternate shot and best ball. It's just the same projected ownership. So I'm just looking at this top section to make it easy. So there's Tony Finau. He's at 80. What's he at? 8,200. So it should be 1.5 times. It's like 41. So yeah, 12.3. But you see, he is being picked 45% of the time by Fantasy National members. Again, how many times is that a captain versus a regular golfer? I don't have that yet. I'm hoping to have that tomorrow. But he's got a decent enough record, and he played well at the Ryder Cup. So a lot of people are liking Tony Finau. At the very bottom end of the price board, Cameron Davis is getting a whole lot of love at 4,800 and 30%. So I'm going to bottom out your fellow contestants with Cameron Davis. So they now have roughly 8,200 per. Kind of depends on what way they want to go with it. Like me personally, I would have a little bit of concern about Scotty Scheffler, but I don't think it's any surprise. Like Xander is very popular. This is going to force them to go kind of lower in the pricing a little bit. Somebody like Cameron Young is getting some love at 6,600. Leaves them essentially 8,000 per. Like they've used Finau. He would fit at 82. Let's see. Morikawa's not getting a whole lot of love. Scott's not getting a whole lot of love. Let's try like Justin Thomas maybe. You know, he's going to be popular. That leaves him 67. 62 is Connors. He's getting a little bit of love. 66 is Cam Young. 64 might not be one. So you can kind of see the kind of lineup, and you see the challenge of making these captainship rosters. To make this fit, it might actually have to go Finau, Justin Thomas, like Max Homa, and at 74, or like Jordan Spieth getting some love. So I imagine this might be some kind of a chalky lineup. You're matching 35.7% of your fellow contestants. And of course, you can play that around. You know, maybe they go up to Xander here. Let's see how that changes. Looks like it's the same. So That's a look at one way of building a very chalky lineup. Another way they could go about building a chalky lineup, you take like a middling priced guy, say a Jordan Spieth, who you think is going to play majority of the sessions, and then you kind of try to balance it out. You go something to the effect of, say, Jordan Spieth. Maybe try to fit in a Patrick Cantlay, and again, I'm just trying to use different names. They are going to have to use Cameron Davis to make this work, but you still have 8,200 per here, so you can go up to Corey Connors maybe. He's sitting at 19.5. Actually, you know what? Let's do Taylor Pendrith. He's sitting at 25%, and he's a little bit lower than Cam Davis. So let's do Pendrith. He's getting some love. Who else is getting some love here? Maybe Adam Scott. But I imagine most of your fellow contestants are going to be loading up on Americans since they are so heavily favored. So like Cameron Young, Tony Finau fits in this. That's 10-1. Like you can fit Spieth, Cantlay, Schauffele, Finau, and then a couple of speculative picks on Cameron Young and Taylor Pendrith. There's another way that your fellow contestants will go about building a lineup, is to take perhaps a speculative choice on a Jordan Spieth. Like Colin Morikawa at the Ryder Cup was a big captain pick, and those who picked him as a captain really panned out well. So again, as you move through lineups, it's important to think who you think will play together. So Patrick Cantlay and Xander Schauffele, those two are going to more than likely play all 5 sessions and all 5 sessions together. You have to think Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth are going to play together. However, I'll bring you over to the Ryder Cup, and Thomas and Spieth didn't play every single match together. Now, Spieth has played in more matches, but they did not play every single match together at the 2020 Ryder Cup. I believe Thomas paired off with somebody that year, I think. It's just, this is just President's Cup, yeah. So it is not a guarantee that they play all 4 sessions together, but they're going to play majority of them together. Like Sam Burns and Billy Horschel, they're going to be playing alternate shot together. And I have brought up the 2021 and 2022 Zurich Classic leaderboards over here off to the side. The big thing with Burns and Horschel, this past season when Xander and Cantlay won, Sam Burns and Billy Horschel shot -8 together as an alternate shot team. They shot 68-68 in the 2 rounds of alternate shot at the Zurich Classic. That is marvelous. They are a very good alternate shot team. I mean, they're just a very good team in general. They finished second, and they played well at the Zurich Classic the year before. But I have a strong feeling that Sam Burns and Billy Horschel are going to be paired together. And if you think they're going to be paired together a lot and they're going to do well, you want to start thinking about using Sam Burns and or Billy Horschel. But I'm going to throw out a name at you that is going to be very speculative, and this could really, really backfire because there's a chance he will only play 3 sessions. I have a strong feeling he'll play once on Thursday or Friday. He'll play 1 session on Saturday, and he's guaranteed to play on Sunday. However, if I am able to sneak a 4th session in with him, I really think he's going to be a difference maker in a DFS contest. I love the idea of a Kevin Kisner captain. He is very, very cheap. He is Mr. Match Play, so I feel very strong about his chances in his singles match with whoever he's paired up against. And I'm also getting, 1.5 times the points on any team format he's built in. So let's take a think about Kevin Kisner. Now, he did draw his singles match in 2017 when he was part of the President's Cup, but he went 2-0-1 in team matches. In those team matches, he was paired with the same player every single time. It was Phil Mickelson and Kevin Kisner. And then Kisner and Anirban Lahiri halved. So if he was paired with Phil Mickelson and did very, very well. Phil Mickelson is an all-or-nothing type player. He was, off the tee, hits it a long way. Obviously, he's known for his wedges. But Kevin Kisner could just play his game, especially in foursomes where he's not going to take you out of the hole. Kisner's not going to be able to reach majority of the par fives in 2, but Phil Mickelson was good enough with his wedges that they were able to play well off each other. The putting, no explanation needed with Kisner, and Phil Mickelson can roll it when he's hot. In 4-ball, Mickelson was allowed to play aggressively. This is my assumption. 2017, I wasn't into golf a whole lot at that point. But I imagine, Kisner could play the conservative route, make sure the team gets a par, and let Phil Mickelson try to get the birdie and just go after it. In that scenario, you're starting to think of players that might fit with Kevin Kisner. I'm thinking Scotty Scheffler for 4-ball. That seems like a pretty good pairing. You put Scheffler together with Kisner in a best ball format. It allows Scotty Scheffler to just have at it, go for it, knowing that he's got a safety net in Kevin Kisner. You can start thinking about perhaps Tony Finau or Cameron Young, these guys that have length off the tee that still hit enough fairways that Kevin Kisner can perhaps, take advantage of that, maybe try to go for a green and 2, or, if Kevin Kisner has to tee off, then that almost forces his partner to perhaps lay up because Kisner's not very good or does not have a lot of distance. But if you put them together in a 4-ball scenario, in a foursomes scenario with a guy who can hit some wedges, Max Homa seems pretty decent. Finau, 9th and 9th. Even Billy Horschel would make some sense. Here's Kisner. He has not hit his wedges very well at all, so that's why you're wanting to put him perhaps with a guy that hits it a long way. That way he can work on his 200 plus proximity, which isn't great, but it's better than his wedges. Like where Kisner's going to come in is his putting and his scrambling. So when you start thinking about that, the partners who could be with Kevin Kisner, you thinking maybe Scotty Scheffler, Tony Finau, Cameron Young, these types of guys, you're probably going to want to double up on them, especially if you think they're going to play well. Like I said, this is more of I'm pretty confident on the singles. He has played team-style formats very, very well, so he knows how to play in these formats. The rankings weren't doing him a lot of justice. And again, there's a lot of red here, but again, there's only 24 players in this field. So, he is 24th in scrambling and off the tee, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's the worst. Like, he's fine off the tee, he's just all fairways. He has no distance compared to everyone else here, or most everyone else. Like in 4-ball, Kevin Kisner is okay at the par 5s because he plays his game. He knows that par 5s are basically 3-shot holes for him, so he plays to his wedges. Long par 4s are difficult for him. That's an issue for him because his 200 plus proximity is not great. But Kevin Kisner, again, it's very speculative. I'm going on the kind of the Paul Haley thing from last week, all or nothing. I don't think he's going to be very widely owned. captain-wise or golfer-wise. And if he does happen to sneak in a fourth session, let's say he goes 2-1-1, that's getting a whole lot of points that from a captainship that is not very widely owned, and it allows me to take some chalk. You know, perhaps I want to take a Justin Thomas, who's going to be very popular. Perhaps I want to take a Sung J M, who's going to be very popular. I can still do that with the relative low ownership. I like Kevin Kisner as a captain. Somebody else I've kind of toyed with is Sam Burns. I kind of like Sam Burns in captainship. I've mentioned how him and Billy Horschel are such a good alternate shot team. I think they're going to play alternate shot very, very well. And they can play 4-ball just fine. They're not going to go light it up, but they play it just fine. Cantley and Xander are the 4-ball team. They shot 59 and 60 this past season at the Zurich. I mean, that's hard to beat. But Burns and Horschel, they are good alternate shot players. So I've thought about saying Burns. I don't want any part of Scotty Scheffler. I really don't want any part of an international captain. Again, the Americans are so heavily favored. I agree with that sentiment that the Americans are heavily favored. If you want to go extremely contrarian, if you pick any captain, international player captain other than Sung Jae, you're going to be very, very unique. I would not advocate using Hideki. He is just terrible at alternate shot. I would be wary of Adam Scott. Somebody like Tom Kim is interesting if you're wanting to go extremely contrarian and do an international player captain. Very, very interesting. I don't think I'd go there, but if I am on that line of thinking, Tom Kim would be interesting. Cameron Davis, Taylor Pendrith. I mean, he's been on fire. He was on fire at the end of the season, August into September. You know, Taylor Pendrith is somebody to think about if you are trying to play the extreme contrarian side. I've been toying around with a lot of Taylor Pendrith in regular lineups. But the way I've been going, I showed you Kevin Kisner, Sam Burns. Let's do a Sam Burns-led lineup. He's more safe than a Kevin Kisner lineup. So I've been going Sam Burns, Taylor Pendrith, who's a little bit chalky for my liking, but, there's only 24 players in the field. Everybody's going to get used. I am very wary of Siwoo. I'm very wary of Mito Pereira. Connors is interesting, but if I'm going Pendrith, I can do a stars and scrubs like Pendrith, Kisner, and now I have room for Cantley, who's chalky, but I have room because of the lack of ownership, especially in these two. So I can go like a Patrick Cantley, Max Homa, who's at 8,000. Who's at 8,000? 78's Morikawa. I think he's going to be interesting. I think Morikawa's going to play well. I don't see an 8,000. Finau's at 82, so I'd have to take 200 off somewhere. I could go Xander, Homa, and Finau, and that's going to be really, really chalky. But it's still less than the extreme chalk. And I'm still getting the firepower of a Xander, a Homa, and a Finau. Kisner's my, unique play there. And hopefully Burns is a unique captain. Colin Morikawa seems like he would be a decent choice, at least in terms of a golfer. Don't know if I would put him in as far as captainship, but if I went, say a Cameron Davis. Actually, let's do Kevin Kisner, like I mentioned. Let's do Cameron Young. I'll do Sung Jae. Yes, he's popular, but he's low in price. Let's talk about Colin Morikawa. That leaves me like a Scotty Scheffler and a Xander. And I can do this like stars and scrubs type build if I wanted to. I'm staying away from Scotty Scheffler completely. I just don't think he fits alternate shot. There's a very good chance he could play 3 sessions. He would play the Friday 4-ball, the Saturday 4-ball, and the singles. I'm very wary of Scotty Scheffler. Others that I would be pretty wary about, KH Lee, as much as I think he would be a decent, I don't want to put it in full on red. That way you can see it. I just don't think he's going to play well in 4-ball. And when a guy is completely, I don't want to say useless, but has a lot of question marks for an entire session, I'm going to be very wary of him. Like KH Lee, I'm out. Bezadenhu, I'm out. Hideki, for the same reason KH Lee. Hideki has just not been a good foursome player. He won 4-1 in his career at the President's Cup in alternate shot. It's just not a good format for him. Sebastian Munoz, I have some concerns about. Let's take a look at Munoz. He's not a great putter on Bermuda. His strength would be in alternate shot. He's good at sand saves, good at scrambling, good with his wedges. Alternate shot would be a good format for him, but who's a good partner? Munoz is decent enough off the tee, and he's decent enough with the scrambling, but again, it's kind of a guessing game. Who would be good with Munoz? Do you put maybe Adam Scott with him? Do you do where do you go, Taylor Pendrith? Decent questions to ask yourself as you're trying to fill out your lineups. Who are these guys going to play with? How well do their games mesh in terms of trying to get your points? So Munoz is a little bit questionable. I'll mark him in a little bit of lighter shade because his alternate shot seems like it would be pretty good, but still wary. Scotty Scheffler, completely out. No, thank you. If he plays well, and which one was it? Was it that one? If he plays well, plays 4 or 5 sessions and wins them all, I'll lose. I'll lose to Scotty Scheffler this week. Dangerous, but I'll do it because I just don't see him playing alternate shot well. I'm out on Mito. I don't see Mito contributing a whole lot in either format. I think his best would be best ball, but you see, he doesn't have a lot going for him here. You would have to put him with probably a Hideki. That might make sense in some regard, where Mito can kind of play his game. He's more greens, doesn't really putt it well, so he can get his pars. Let Hideki be more aggressive, especially if the putter stays hot. That makes some amount of sense, so I could see that. But I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it. I'm out on Siwoo. No thanks on Siwoo. Spieth is interesting. Even though he's ranked 24th in alternate shot, he's 5-0. If you're ignoring Jordan Spieth completely, I think you're doing it wrong. He's even got a winning record in 4-ball. Now, he's lost every single singles match in his President's Cup career. But, the record stands for itself in the team formats, 8-2-1. Jordan Spieth might be a decent captaincy pick, so I'm going to be thinking about using Spieth a little bit as well. So, what's that already? 6 guys? So, I've eliminated 25% of the players from my player pool already, just thinking about alternate shot. Now, if we come down to best ball, it says foursome rankings. Let me do 4-ball, be a little less confusing. Like Adam Scott has 4, 9, and 4 in best ball. Well, it would help if I could spell. It would help if I could spell. Dumbass. There we go. Like Adam Scott's 4, 9, and 4. Not great. Not great at all. And I've got some concerns about his form coming in. Because this would be his best format. The alternate shot, he's 15th in those rankings. Good at putting. He's good at long irons or long approach shots, but like the scrambling hasn't been good. Off the tee and irons haven't been good. And you come down to best ball. It says 12th, but again, like I've got some concerns on Adam Scott, so I'll mark him in orange like I did with Munoz. Like Morikawa, maybe okay in 4-ball. Like Colin Morikawa seems pretty darn good in alternate shot, even though he's ranked a little bit lower. Like he seems pretty good in alternate shot because you know he's going to hit the fairway. His irons are good. He's good with wedges. Like he's not going to take you out of a hole if you put him in alternate shot. And that's why him and DJ were such a good pairing. DJ provided Colin Morikawa the length. Morikawa provided DJ the irons. They were rolling it well that week. It worked out. Again, like Mito, I'm out. Munoz, KH Lee, I've got concerns. Like Spieth, I would have concerns in 4-ball a little bit. So I might be a little gun shy on Spieth in terms of 4-ball. And then, as I mentioned, these others, like Bezadenhout, I don't want any part of either format. Mito, I don't want any part in either format. KH Lee, Siwoo. Honestly, like Munoz in 4-ball, like the only thing he's really got going for him is these par 4s, 450 to 500. But then again, like who do you pair him with? Maybe Hideki in 4-ball. Maybe Connors in 4-ball. So I got my concerns with Munoz as well in 4-ball. So there is a look at how I am approaching DFS this week in terms of players and captaincies. Again, I really like Kevin Kisner as a contrarian play to these popular captains. I can see a Sam Burns. There's nothing wrong with taking a Xander or a Patrick Cantlay as your captain. They're extremely popular. So you're setting yourself up immediately for a 5v5, essentially. That's why I've been trying to find, like a Billy Horschel, a mid to lower priced player that, I think might sneak in a 4th session and pull out 3 or maybe 3 wins or 2 wins and a draw. Like Colin Morikawa might fit that description. Like I can go Colin Morikawa, then take some chalk with Justin Thomas. Be a little bit speculative, I guess, on Joo Hyun Kim. Sam Burns, perhaps. Puts me at 7,000 even. So, like, I can go Cameron Young, who I'm pretty high on. 77 means 76 and below. Like Sung Jae. He's going to be popular, but that's the first lineup we've generated that's under 30%. And I would be comfortable submitting this. Morikawa, if he goes 2-1-1, I'd be happy with that. With the captaincy, I get the firepower. Justin Thomas, I think Burns is going to be good this week with Billy Horschel. Sung Jae, extremely popular, but at least he's going to play all 5 sessions. Cameron Young's a bit speculative. Joo Hyun Kim, who I imagine will be paired with Sung Jae once or twice. So there you go. There is a look at how I am looking at DFS this week. I really do hope you consider joining me tomorrow night. It's going to be a very, very fun show. Very relaxed, laid back. In fact, I'll show you the format that I've already created for it. Where I'll choose, if I'm the captain of each team, how I would throw guys out there. And I'll put one in here as a tease. If I'm Captain Davis Love III, it's Thursday afternoon, the start of the President's Cup. I'm going to set a statement. I'm going to set the tone. I'm throwing my best team out there. All right, internationals, beat them. Beat them. Come at me. So I will give you that little tease for tomorrow. Again, really hope you drop by tomorrow night. It's a fun show, very relaxed. We'll have a lot of fun with it. And I'll also have my final prediction, who's the leading scorer for the Americans, the internationals, the final prediction score, all that stuff. So, guys, thanks for tuning in and watching and listening, supporting the channel. P, glad you hopped into chat. Was happy to hear that you had a good time at the Live event. Hopefully you have some success in regards to your DFS this week. James, thanks for jumping in chat right there at the end. A reminder that I am going to be live again tomorrow morning, prepping my DFS lineups. You'll see some of those and how I maneuver captainships versus regular players. You'll see me prep this tomorrow on Twitch. So hope you consider dropping by in the morning on Twitch. If not, tomorrow night for the Captain's Rosters show, which is always fun. So thanks again for all the support. For all of the DFS contests you've entered this week for the President's Cup, for all of the wagers you have made for this week at the President's Cup, and until I hopefully see you tomorrow night for the roster and prediction show, may all your bets be profitable.